Ladies and gentlemen, heels and faces, casual wrestling fans, and all you smart marks. I'm Kayfabe AJ, and this is Kayfabe Av. We've taken a few weeks break. I've been on vacation. We've been going through wildfires, thunderstorms, flooding here in New York, and then, of course, I get sick. But finally, I'm back. We have a bunch of stuff to talk about. AEW Redemption, brand new pay-per-view that happened over the last week. A lot of things coming out of that. We have a wonderful Dynamite and a Collision, uh, which is actually a rarity coming off of pay-per-views. Usually, that's one of my biggest complaints is that AEW can give us a great pay-per-view, then usually the follow-up show is good to atrocious. It's never something great. It's always kind of lackluster, but that was not the case this week. But let's not waste any time. So AEW Redemption, like I said, happened last week. Brand new pay-per-view, kind of like a filler in between the All In, um, which is like their WrestleMania. So one more stop added before we get to All In London. And just like every AEW show, it was a packed card. They tried to do something different as far as uh air an hour earlier. And I'm here like, yeah, it's an hour earlier, but I guarantee you we're still going to midnight. And funny enough, they finished about 5 minutes before, maybe 5 to 15 minutes before midnight. So I guess Tony was trying to avoid that crowd like myself that's like, dude, we want to go home or like we want to be able to go to sleep with enough time to wake up in the morning and still go to work. But let's get into the card. We had on the buy-in the Rose. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. The Roju family celebration. Um, a Canadian wrestling family. They were being celebrated in AEW. Tony likes to do a lot of things like that as far as um giving back props to like the old generation and kind of bridging that old school with the new school, letting the new fans kind of learn their history in a way, or like me personally, I've been watching for 20 something years, almost 30 years, and honestly, I had no idea who the Roju family were. But they were prominent in Canada, so that's what started the buy-in. The only match to make the buy-in was the AEW World Trios Championship, which was the conglomeration. That's a mouthful to say. Orange Cassidy, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong defeating the Lethal Twist, which was Jay Lethal, Blake Christian, and Lee Johnson. So, very good match to open the show. Um, well, the pre-show, and then we went straight into the six-way ladder match for the AEW International Championship, number one contendership. So this match started with like all the entrances happening on the pre-show, leading. I thought they were gonna do what Tony's been like kind of routinely doing a lot of these events, starting the match in the pre-show, letting it continue into the main show, have the intro pyro happening in the middle of the match. I thought that's what was gonna happen, but they smartly used the time to get all the entrances out the way. So when the show actually started, we started with the six-way ladder match. Most of the contestants already in the ring. The winner of that match was Mike Bailey, Speedball Mike Bailey. So he'll have a future international title shot. Um, Next up was the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick versus the Death Riders. Now, this match for me was like the storytelling match of the night. Not much going into it. We already know the Bucks are a prominent tag team. The Death Riders have a situation going on with Kenny and Will Ospreay, having trained Will Ospreay for the better part of this year, and Will earning his spot to All In, going to face Kenny. Um, so they had this match between the Bucks. Now, like I said, all of the storytelling in this match happened within the actual match itself. It looked like they was trying to kill Nick Jackson the entire time. Like did a couple spots that looked like he might have been concussed, and they were like really playing into that. Um, he might be concussed. He doesn't know where he is right now. It was a good part of the story, um, which ends up seeing the Young Bucks winning. Um, Great highlight match. I go out your way to see it. There's a couple of people that are complaining as far as like the no selling, just generally throughout the show. And that's one thing that we have to just start reconciling with ourselves. This is gonna happen time to time. It's AEW. They're work prominently on the spots, and it's high speed. Everything's back to back to back. But when you're taking a 450 splash and you get up instantly to give someone a super kick, you're no selling certain moves. Like it just does not sit well with me. Um, but other than, those little nuances, those little nitpicks, the card top to bottom was really good. But, it's one of those things where you had this great match with the storytelling, and it would have been even that much greater if you just took a couple of seconds to sell the move. The mat hurts. These moves hurt. Like, sell them for a few seconds longer, and it'll make the match that much more special. Um, Not taken away from the actual card, like I said, great card. Next up was the AEW International Championship match with Kyle Fletcher versus Bandito. This was like match of the night for me. Kyle Fletcher has a history of just going in, giving it all he has, and making the best out of his opponents and bringing the best out of his opponents. And I feel like this was nothing new. Great match back and forth, a lot of high spots, a lot of false finishes, heavy hitting. But Kyle Fletcher's definitely proven to be like, if you don't believe in him now, like he's gonna make you believe. And I'm pretty sure within the next maybe year or two, he's gonna be one of those guys that's gonna be prominently featured in the main event. And rightfully so. He's been hitting on all cylinders since he left the United Kingdom and left the stigma of being like Will Ospreay's second. Um he's done nothing but elevate his career since, changed his look. I'm not really too big a fan of the Callis family, but he's probably one of the best parts of the Callis family. So I've been enjoying a lot of Kyle Fletcher's work since, like I said, since he left the United Kingdom. And hats off to Bandito as well. Bandito's been stepping up his in ring, been really giving us a good series of matches. I will say, out of the last five matches he's had, five were fucking great. So, like I said, hats off to Bandito, hats off to Kyle Fletcher. Great match. Definitely go out your way to see that. The next match was just added on the Dynamite before the show, was the double chain match with the dogs, David Finlay and Clark Connors, defeating the Bang Bang Gang, Juice Robinson, and Switchblade Jay White. Now, uh, good match. The dogs have been used prominently over the past couple of months, but I felt like they made the wrong decision in having the dogs win. Having Switchblade Jay White come back just about a month and a half ago after being off our TVs for the better part of a year, I think they needed the win more so than the dogs, especially considering that the Bang Bang Gang has kind of taken a back seat because of injuries, with Switchblade being gone, and then we had Juice Robinson being gone for a while. So, with Juice coming back and then Jay White actually coming back, it was like, okay, finally we're gonna get more for the Bang Bang Gang. That sounds like a crazy sentence to say, but I was looking forward to them kind of getting Jay White back into, the spot that he was in before he left. He was a prominent figure in the storyline with Swerve, Hangman, over the fate of AEW Championship, with the Death Riders, holding hostage to the title. So I was definitely looking forward to Jay White getting back into that spot. So hopefully, we get that. But I also understand All In is literally in like 3 weeks. Then we have All Out. It's, kind of hard to pigeonhole someone and like shoehorn them into a match last minute in this way. So um, hopefully there's more to look forward for Jay White coming off that injury and being freshly back on TV. We had John Moxley pretty much threatening that if Will Ospreay doesn't pull the trigger on Kenny, that he'll do it himself. More to come on that later in the show. We had the TBS Championship, Maya World defeating Hikaru Shida, and boy, it's Tegan Knox probably kicking herself, and her significant other. They both had the opportunity to have a match on AEW. I guess they felt they were too big of stars or too big of a names to actually take the loss. Ended up costing them a job opportunity at AEW. They've been doing nothing since. And yet the women who have filled that spot and took the loss and, continue to understand that this was an opportunity. Maya World has, in the past couple of months, has definitely been proving her worth, proving her in-ring game. AEW has definitely been going out their way to showcase her. So, winning the TBS championship in at Redemption was really big for her, and they're continuing that momentum with her. I don't think they're slowing down. They're really giving Maya World a big chance, and I'm here. I'm definitely here for it. AEW doesn't lack for women. They just lack for putting these women in prominent positions. We have the tag team titles, we have the TBS title, and we also have the AEW Women's Championship. So there's like really no reason for these divisions not to be rich and full. So, having someone new like Maya World winning was definitely great. I definitely didn't see it coming. I figured that Karushida would retain going into All In, so that was a good change of pace. I did not get pissed off behind that. That was a good decision for me. The next match was the Demand challenging for the Trios Championships against the Conglomeration. Um, so the Demand end up losing this match, as a matter of fact. Conglomeration pulls off the win, and then um, they actually had a rematch for those belts on Dynamite, but we'll get more to that. Uh, so that was the Demand. We had the AEW World Tag Team Championships defended. Adam Copeland and Christian Cage defeating the Death Riders. This was a good match. Go back and forth. I don't see why the Death Riders aren't prominently featured as far as like taking the majority of these championships. I feel like if anybody has a stable that deserves to like have a chokehold on multiple championships outside of the Callis family, it should be the Death Riders. But Adam Copeland and Edge, Adam Copeland, it was Edge. Adam Copeland and Christian Cage, having a long rivalry and also a friendship, partnership, brotherhood spanning 20 plus years. Very decorated tag team champions, and to see them doing it 20 years later and doing it on a high level, it just makes me wish like we could have gotten one last Hardys versus Edge and Christian and the Dudleys and have that one last nostalgia trip before the Dudleys officially retired last year. Um, uh, Never say never when it comes to the Hardys. They're still heavily involved in wrestling, doing their thing in TNA, the current TNA champions. So we'll see. Hopefully that pans out in the future, but uh I keep trying to call him Edge. Adam Copeland and Christian Cage pulled out a good win. It was a good match. Go ahead and see that. Excuse me. The next match was the No Holds Barred match. Painmaker, Chris Jericho defeating the Psycho Killer Tommaso Ciampa. Now, I said that my match of the night was the Kyle Fletcher match, and I definitely maintained that match was like awesome to see. But if there was any other match that I felt like was gonna give this shit competition off of like pure shock value and like things that they've done in the match, yeah, this was the one to see. Jericho coming back after a long break where he had a bunch of gimmicks that just didn't feel right. It felt like he was trying to bring people up, but it just wasn't working. A lot of people that worked with him kind of failed. So upon his return, we wasn't sure what direction his character was going. I, for one, was not appreciating the direction his character was going. It felt like a cheesy continuation of what he was already doing, which was no longer working for me. Um, but his matches with Tommaso Ciampa and Ciampa kind of pushing him in that aggressive direction, weeks before they even brought the Paymaker back, I was telling the guys at Kayfabe, like, I feel like we need the Paymaker back. Like, that is Jericho's most serious gimmick. It was the prominent one that he used in New Japan Pro Wrestling. He kind of transitioned that into AEW and did the Le Champion. So I was like midway, like I would love to see the Paymaker back, but if he could give us Le Champion, Chris Jericho, I'd be here for either of them. But if Jericho had anything to prove or felt like he had anything to prove, it was evident in this match. Like, the man pulled out a drill and was gonna drill Tommaso Ciampa's head in before Tommaso Ciampa tapped. So, heavy hitting, a lot of, like, in a good way, cringe. Like, some cringe is good. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. Um, you know, Weapons galore, hard hits, Jericho, I feel like he was out there to prove, like, I still got it. I can still wrap the fans around my finger. I can still draw their attention in the way I want. And if for me, for someone who I love Chris Jericho. Jericho's one of my favorite guys going back to WCW and the Attitude Era. That's how far back. But I was really, really low on Jericho, and this was him kind of showing to me, like, I'm still here. I still have it in me. There's still a good run I could push out of, being in AEW. So more of that, less of the drill, but more of that intensity. I absolutely loved it. Next up was Divine Dominion talking to Mick Foley, and boy, was this segment cringe as fuck, and not cringe in a good way. Like I was just saying, this was the terrible cringe. Like, what the fuck was the segment? What the fuck was the purpose of the segment? What were they trying to get across? It didn't put the girls in a better light. It made Mick Foley look stupid as fuck. And if this is the kind of interaction we're gonna get, you could have left Mick Foley at home. It's okay to have a Legends contract and just give your likeness to games and etc. But that shit was terrible. They tell Mick bow down and he understood bark. So now we had to watch at least a minute and change of Mick Foley barking for no fucking reason. Terrible segment. They should have faded away and went to another segment, or there was no saving that shit. Mick Foley, after the fact, supposedly said that he understood that they told him to bark, instead of the bow down, and it was shockmaster levels of bad. That segment, just put it that way. Next up, we had the AEW National Championship, Andrade El Idolo versus Mark Davis. Absolutely love this match. I love what Andrade is doing. I love his new gimmick. How you know? Because it's been working. It's been successful the last couple of weeks, months actually. We've been waiting for something major to happen with Andrade in every run of AEW. This is about technically his third stint in AEW, coming back temporarily with a contract issue, so he had to get sidelined again until he was free from WWE. So technically, on his third one, is like, you guys are finally using Andrade in the way that he should have been used. We've been waiting for this AEW World Title match. I mean, we haven't gotten that yet, but the national championship needing more prestige, because as of maybe a month ago, I really didn't feel any purpose of having a national championship, especially when we have an international and a continental championship. So it's like super redundant. But if we're gonna have people bring prestige to it, Andrade is a really good start. Really great matches. The gimmick is working for him. So Definitely like that. Definitely a top five match of the night. So go out and see that. The next segment was Speedball Mike Bailey challenging Kyle for Grand Slam Mexico, which is next week, I believe. So a lot of big events, a lot of big moments happening leading into All In. And next up, we had the AEW Women's Championship, Willow versus the Toxic Spider Thekla. And we had the AEW World Championship, Kenny versus uh TNC champion, the Jet, Kevin Knight. So now, as far as the Willow thing, I felt like they did the same thing they did for Kenny at Double or Nothing, which was pretty much give him the championship just because we actually want to see this other marquee match more so than the MJF versus Kenny. So they gave him that so we could get Kenny versus Will. And the reason why that didn't bother me so much is because we still had a month and a half or about a month and change to get the story correctly, to do a proper pivot and make this shit, have some emotion, some feelings, some stakes, you know what I mean? So they accomplished that over the couple of weeks since Double or Nothing. Redemption solidified a good defense against Kevin Knight for Kenny. And then, we saw the attempt to attack Kenny Omega for the Death Riders. We had Will Ospreay pretty much deflect the Death Riders from attacking Kenny. They were trying to do the bag over the head spot that they did to Daniel Bryan. Will Ospreay ends up not heeding the advice of John Moxley and doesn't pull the trigger as far as attacking Kenny first, which was at a detriment to Will because Kenny took that shot first as a one-winged angel, Will Ospreay to end the show. So, as far as the Willow situation goes, I felt like, yes, we understand that you wanted to get Willow to Mercedes Moné. They have that history, and actually, in the last Dynamite, the return Dynamite from this Redemption show, they had an amazing reasoning as to why this match was needed. At every point of Monet's career leaving WWE, Willow was the thorn on her side. She had to go through Willow in New Japan. She had to go through Willow to get to AEW. Willow's the one who took a CBS championship. Willow's the one she got to get through to get this AEW Women's Championship. So Willow's been a big thorn on her side for a long time. So I understand why they took the title off Thekla and put it on Willow, but I felt like Thekla has held down that belt in a vacuum where Monet was doing her own thing. Chris Stat had her little run. Tony Storm is gone. We haven't seen Britt Baker in God knows how long. A lot of the women are capable, but they still need a little bit of work, character and in-ring wise, to hold that championship. So Thekla was one where I didn't know much about her career in Stardom or anything she did before AEW. And when she initially won that championship, I was shocked off her beating Tony Storm because it felt out of left field. Um, but over the past year, she's actually had amazing matches, solidified herself as a not just a contender but a champion. And by the time we got to her dropping, it felt like it was the right decision for her being the champion in the first place. But I would have liked for them to kind of stretch this out one more month, give her that proper all-in match that she deserves. She held on the AEW Women's Championship and the division as a whole for the majority of this year, and I think it kind of sucks that people like her, people like a MJF, we don't have any clear path to all-in, and that's like WrestleMania for AEW. So in that note, I feel like it's a little bit of a detriment, but it's not end all be all. Is not gonna make or break the situation. The card is shaping up really well for All In, and the return episode for Dynamite and even Collision was a must see situation, and that's coming from someone who's extremely critical of their return shows because it always feels like a massive drop in quality, and that was not the case for this Dynamite. So You know, Dynamite started straight up with continuing the Will Ospreay story with Kenny, and the Death Riders, and showing all of the ramifications of what happened, from the results of that pay-per-view. So, it was very story heavy, very wrestling heavy, which is not surprising. AEW goes out their way to have like their big matches or make every match feel big. They give their time to them. So, but this Dynamite really balanced, story, and getting the goal, to All In, and establishing what we're about to see the next month. They did a really great job. Collision, we had the special debut of the Motor City Machine Guns, which is a part of that big core group of WWE people who were let go. Check out our episode on where we think, they might land. But this Saturday, was the beginning of that. Over the past week, we saw a vignette from the New Day. We've had a vignette from Thea Trinidad, who seems like she's going to still go by Zelina, but instead of a Z, it's an X. So, over the next week or so, we're going to see a lot of where these people are landing. So far, our first confirmation is the Motor City Machine Guns are All Elite. And I will say it, Triple H, WWE, you dropped the ball. If we as fans and, people who cover this content are going to be critical at AEW at almost every turn, when they do something wrong, we also have to do that to WWE. And right now, WWE's momentum seems to be going down, and AEW is in a perfect position to take all that momentum. If they could continue this storytelling that they've been, whether it's in-ring story or, doing the vignettes and doing the promo segments that they've been doing over the past, like 2-3 months. It's been really, the trajectory is all up in my mind for AEW. They really can't miss right now. And I hope they keep that momentum going. And if they do, WWE is gonna be in a spot where financially they're not gonna get touched. People showing up, people always gonna show up, but they're gonna be in a mass scramble whenever AEW starts showing what they can do at the best of their game. It forces WWE to go back to creative and say, hey, we have to challenge what's going on. And honestly, if that's what it takes, AEW showing greatness for WWE to fix a lot of the lackluster decisions and the stories and the people they keep rotating, so be it. Um, Hats off to AEW. You guys, great pay-per-view, great week of shows. Go check out Collision, go check out Dynamite. um, all very good programs. But let's move on to night one of SummerSlam, which to me, if we're gonna compare, uh AEW's Redemption pay-per-view, and we're gonna see who had the better show, AEW hands down. They still went almost to to 12, so still a lot to watch, but it was a lot more consumable an hour earlier than 1 o'clock in the morning. Just now, attempting to go to sleep. So, um, they did a good job. SummerSlam, on the other hand, I feel like, um, this is the first ever 2-night SummerSlam. Excuse me, the second, 2-night SummerSlam. The first one was at MetLife. I should know. I was there. Kayfabe was there. This is the second one, and honestly, night one didn't make a case to continue this, week, 2 day weekend SummerSlam. Um, were there good matches? Yeah, sure, but having finally six matches on the card, does that really matter when three uh, 3 to 4 of those matches are already gone and run through by the first hour and 15 minutes of the show, and we still have another hour and change to go through? So, the opening of the show was the, uh Women's World Championship. We had Liv Morgan versus Io Sky, and while the match itself was good, that's the first defense Liv has had in 100 days. Um, they speak on that. They and she says, "Hey, who was up? Who was challenging me? Who like creative needs to be challenging? You know what I mean?" And this being her first, I'm glad she didn't instantly drop the title to EO, which I thought was gonna happen. I feel like they just been force feeding us EO Sky, and while she's an amazing talent, one of the best talents in the world, arguably, choose somebody else. Go with somebody else. Build these women up, and you know, a lot more could have been done in that situation. Um, for sure, a lot more could have been done in that situation, but it felt like the first hour of SummerSlam was like really just trying to, you know, hit the spots and run. I feel like they should have spaced it out more. You started at 6 o'clock. By nine something, we were already done. It wasn't even 10 o'clock by the time we were done. Like WWE needs to seriously go back to 8 matches a show. Like they have the opposite problem of AEW. AEW is packing the card to the point where we're like, please end this. It's okay to have a 5 minute match in this segment. But WWE, on the other hand, is deep in us wanting more. Like, did we just sit here for 2.5 hours and have 5 matches or 6 matches that it went super fucking quick? um, we had I lost the exact order. That was the opening show, the opening match though. I believe the next match was the 3-on-3 solo LA Knight and Royce Keys versus the Bloodline. Now, this was a decent match. I really don't have too much to harp on. It really felt like the LA Knight Uso spot from last year's SummerSlam, just rearranged to have a different version of the Bloodline and the Usos going against LA Knight. So it just felt like that same spot regurgitated from last year. Highlight of that, ironically, was a comedy spot in that match. And as far as the actual move, Royce Keys hitting the running power slam outside over the barricade on Jacob Fatu. Definitely cool visual. But the highlight was Solo. Solo's personality has been like overpowering everything they throw at him. He's been the highlight of these bloodlines wanting to recruit him segments. He's been the highlight of this whole story that brought them together for this match. And he has a running it back, play making fun of Jey Uso. Like the crowd dug it. Solo showing that he can run on his own. And while I would love a full-fledged bloodline, we probably don't need it. Solo's proven that he can do it on his own. And honestly, maybe it's time to start elevating that boy, get him back into that main event, and throw him into that mix of people who can go for a WWE championship. We had the Nick Aldis versus Gunther match, which I'm gonna give all the credit in the world to Nick Aldis for giving us what he gave us in this match. Taking the hits from Gunther, it's not easy to go 3 years without a match. Ring rust is real. You have to keep your body in tune. So I won't knock some of the slow parts of the match or the parts that look like, it needed a little bit of work. All this has not wrestled in 3 years. And with that being said, good match, gave it his all. Gunther ended up taking the win, which, storyline wise, going forward, it makes sense. By the end of the night, Nick Aldis gave his resignation letter to Triple H, being as though he gave up his spot as GM to even have this match. Triple H says, I respect you as a man. I respect what you did. And as far as your resignation letter, tore it up in front of him and said, as far as I'm concerned, you're reinstated as the GM of SmackDown. Um, I like Aldis as the SmackDown GM. Great role. I think he does it a little bit better than Adam Pearce, even though taking nothing away from Adam Pearce, he has run both shows um, to good effect. But the visual of Nick Aldis being the guy that, yes, he's the GM, but he's not a sucker, and you can't just push him around. So I do like having Nick Aldis back. Um, did I want him to start a career? Yeah, because I felt like him being a wrestler and doing the wrestling thing, it gave that division a little bit more of a boost. Another visual of someone along the lines of a Cody. They both have a similar style, but we can contrast what Cody's doing. Cody feels like he's never gonna go heel. It's always gonna be this kind of baby face, I show aggression in spurts kind of thing, and Nick Aldis could have been the antithesis to that. So I did want to see more from Nick Aldis. I wanted him to get through the ring rust and get some opportunities as a wrestler. But if I had a choice of no Aldis or keep him as GM, I'd rather keep him as GM. So moving on, we had the 3-on-3 women's match with Fatal Attraction facing the Bellas and Paige. So this was like obvious to me. The entire time that Paige and Bree had the women's tag team championships, I'm like, okay, I get it. They're doing this because Nikki got hurt. Hurry the fuck up and come back so we could get over this. I did not enjoy their run. They did have a good couple quality matches, but just them together, it was thrown together last second. I did because of the Nikki injury, so I never really bought into their title reign at all. Once Nikki did come back, I'm like, okay, bitch, just hurry the fuck up and attack Paige because we know that's the direction you're gonna go. Sure enough, they lost because of Paige, and then they proceeded to attack her. Now, I don't know what the hell's going on with the Bella Twins. They're like trading off time, but it looks like Brie Bella got hurt in that match, shoulder. We'll find out more, I guess, today or on Raw on Monday. But now we might not even have Brie Bella in the situation. So here goes another weight for the Bellas to possibly capture that tag team championship, which ironically I feel like is the only reason they came back was to get that notch on their legacy to actually say, hey, us as twin sisters and our gimmicks been tied together our entire careers. We damn near retired around the same time together. We got into the Hall of Fame together. We might as well get these titles. So this is a positive for Paige because now she can go and be in the world title picture, and we can have a couple of those dream matches that we wanted since Paige was cleared in AEW and finally got back to WWE. So we'll have a couple of those dream matches, which is good. So it sucks whenever anybody gets injured. So shout out to Brie. Hope she gets better. Hope it's not serious, and I hope maybe a week or two off will get her back into that condition that she needs. I hope it's not serious. Um, so moving on let me see, that was the Bella match. We had CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes, and you know, decent match from a wrestling perspective, but I felt like the story going in was just trash. They did the "You're my brother, I'm your brother. We're fighting over this title" thing. It felt shoehorned. It felt like it didn't have enough build to warrant us to really give a shit. I was watching the match with like, okay, I just want to see who just wins. I didn't want Cody winning for the simple fact we've had this for the past 3 years. Cody needs to be a chaser. Cody needs to have development away from the belt. I will stand on that. So I'm glad that they did go with CM Punk winning. Although it was via the return of Randall Keith Orton, the GOAT RKO, hitting an RKO on Cody, and then CM Punk taking advantage and pulling off the win. I do like the fact that they are revisiting that story because it was terribly done at WrestleMania. They still had a lot of lingering threads from that, with Randy punting Cody at the end, obliterating his eye, and there's still more to work into that story. And I feel like now's the time to pull the trigger on the history between the two guys. Now's the time to pull that legacy thread of the stable they were in. And pull the thread of when you first came into this company and into, Randy's orbit, Cody, he punted your father. You've never reconciled that. That was the time. So, decent match, but like I said, I wasn't really invested. The story felt shoehorned. I feel like it just needed more time and more work. So going into the actual main event of the evening, which was surprising to me, I thought I missed it because I went in like an hour late watching the show. I thought 6 o'clock start was actually the pre-show. But no, 6 o'clock start was the actual show start time. So I had to play catch up. I thought I missed out on the Hell in a Cell, but surprisingly, it was the last match. And I have one question coming out of that Hell in a Cell match. What the fuck was the point of the Hell in a Cell? I saw no moves using the cell. I saw no cage being broken. Nobody went outside. Nobody climbed the thing. Um, it was basically their last match, just with the ring mat being pulled. It wasn't their greatest showing. It wasn't trash, but it could have been done better. You put the gimmick of Hell in a Cell. There was no blood. There was no real stakes. Like it was just back and forth, finisher, suplex, finisher, and then I, I I have to harp on this. Like I said, if we get a critique AEW where they do shit, WWE, what the fuck? What the actual fuck? You let Brock Lesnar pull the ring mat, expose the wood pallets underneath the ring. You let this man tombstone, pile drive, Obafemi, just for Obafemi to instantly no sell, do one maneuver, and then power bomb Brock, not even on the wood like he was supposed to, and then instantly win. Fucking terrible ending. That shit was disgusting to me. A tombstone pile driver on hard wood, and you instantly no sell that shit just so Brock could instantly sell the one power bomb that was on the cushion that was visible to the viewers. Brock, when he took the powerbomb, looks over to see, oh shit, he didn't even drop me on the fucking wood, and they still went with it. He should have screamed, powerbomb me again on the wood. They should have redid that spot, because I'm sorry, Undertaker did not spend 30 something years protecting that fucking move for people to do power drivers on hardwood and no sell it. For AEW to do tombstones on chairs, tombstones through tables, and tombstone power drivers on the hard part of the apron to no sell it. It was disgusting when I first saw it in AEW. It's disgusting when WWE does it. They need to fucking do better. And honestly, Brock is a fucking pure wrestler. This was your chance to have a pure wrestling match, a fucking all-out brawl, blood and guts, all of that in the cell. We already believe in Obafemi. If you really want to pass that torch, show us how good Obafemi can wrestle versus Brock Lesnar. That finish suplex move here, it's been done, dude. You do that shit every fucking time you face somebody prominent. Every time it's Brock versus Roman, Brock versus Drew, Brock versus enter main eventer here. It's 7 finishers in a row, and everything in between is missed. Should have been the main event. Should have been the opener. Cool that Brock gave Oba the respect at the end. It looks like this is Brock's actual retirement match, and you know what? It's over. Cool. But this didn't do anything for me as a fan to change my perspective on Oba. It didn't do anything for me as a fan solidifying Brock's legacy. If you went in there looking for a reason to have your opinion changed, swayed, or altered, this match wasn't going to do it. We're like, why the fuck is the cell there? It's just a visual accessory at this point. It wasn't actually used. So, I don't want to harp on it too much. I hate ending shows on a negative note. So I'll end it with this. SummerSlam needs more matches. AEW this week, has shown that they can be a contender. They can be a force. And I love the growth that they've been showing the past couple of weeks, the past couple of months, focusing on story, focusing on the in-ring storytelling, the matches, and hitting the goals that they're trying to hit, and not trying to force perception or do the hate WWE trade or do stupid shit to boost their numbers. They've actually just been focusing on the wrestling. And WWE, that's my advice. Try to focus back on the wrestling, dude. Like having 6 matches and then 3 of them are run-throughs doesn't help the card. 8 matches. 8 matches. Go back to 8 fucking matches. Especially if you're doing 2 nights. Go back to 8 matches. Make these events feel stellar again. I went to WrestleMania 42. Night 1 was trash compared to night 2. The feeling. Why? Because night 2 focused on the wrestling. And that's the oversight you're missing. Go back to the wrestling. We're all gonna we enjoy the storytelling, we enjoy the gimmick segments on the weekly shows. For these pay-per-views, we want hard hitting fucking wrestling. We want to know that the month we spent investing into this story, investing into this event, that it's good payoff. I was looking forward to this Hell in a Cell match, but I'm pretty sure Danhausen's Human Money's on a pole match will probably use their gimmick more than they use the Cell, which is fucking atrocious. SummerSlam Night 2 is tonight. We're definitely going to cover that. Hopefully the guys can join me on the next show. Vacations are over. Wildfires seem to be over. And I've been over the little cold I got coming back from vacation. So hopefully we'll get back into the routine, throwing more shows throughout the week and getting into that weekly This Week in Wrestling. But that has been the week in AEW and SummerSlam. So like I said, night 2's tonight. I'm praying that they learn from the mistakes of night 1 and give us more time on the actual wrestling. With that being said, I'm Kayfabe AJ. This has been Kayfabe Avenue. Like, share, subscribe to all of our channels. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts or you stream. You can find us at Kayfabe Avenue. Join the TikTok. We respond. We throw a lot of our live footage on there, clips from our shows. So definitely join the TikTok at Kayfabe Avenue. And we'll see you later tonight, or if not tomorrow, for the SummerSlam Night 2 review. And take us home.